By the 9 and 4, greetings and welcome back to the library, my perceptive patrons. In today's entry, we're going to take a quick look at one of the cultural icons of the Dragwa race, carried into battle and banquet with equal measure and fervor, and when used in those arenas, a display of prowess and skill that is sure to catch the eye and steal the breath from onlookers. I speak, of course, of the various chain blades of the Dragwa. As you well know by this point, my perceptive patrons, this will be just an introduction to these weapons and tools of the Dragwa, which were created before they were, but with them in mind. As with many things involving the Dragwa's origins, we must turn our eye to the past and to the wars of feather and scale. After the creation of the Isle of Mist, but before the dawn of the creation of the Dragwa, the main battle weapons of the force in development had been selected. One with a flexible range, a near infinite variety in its use, and exploited the advantages of the Dragwa that were being crafted and for which it was crafted for. And finally, was capable of being used in anti-dragon warfare. The chain blades, in the multiple varieties they come in, fulfill all these requirements. When wielded by those they were crafted for, there are not many forces in the realms that can boast that fighting chain blades isn't a losing fight. With all that said, what exactly is a chain blade? Well, the principle is simple. It's a sword, polearm, or other bladed weapon in which the weapon head either partially or completely will split and separate, converting the blade to a much longer and a very flexible whip-like blade made up of the rearranged parts of the weapon head, like a cord of frayed wire, but with edges and points along its entirety, creating a very lethal extension of force for the Dragwa. The sudden redistribution of weight and thus the balance of the weapon, along with the momentum of changing back and forth between the forms, all of these make using, much less mastering the art of the chain blade, a lifelong pursuit for any that are not Dragwa. The mechanism that allows the chain blades to operate are detailed in very fine work. Of course, being a creation of the NLR, the Crystech machines in the home city produce each of the blades to a masterful quality every time. The way the many fine wires within it are formed, and how they are laced throughout the blade's substance and structure to both grant flexibility and control the weapon no matter what form it is in, is beyond most to be able to follow or understand the principles at play, with only the insane or exalted rarely being able to. This means the number of forms and shapes of the chain blade are limited in most cases, as the creation of new blades without the original machines is far beyond most that are not gods of the forge themselves. The standard issue chain blade can extend as far as 10 feet in its extended form. This is, not surprisingly, also the average range of a Dragwa's preternatural senses. And this fact means that if you can be felt or sensed by a Dragwa, they know exactly where to place their strike, and can do so. Furthermore, their totality of senses allow them to grow much more adept at using these weapons in far more extravagant ways, such as striking from unexpected angles, wrapping and seizing objects or limbs, as well as many other feats. There are, as mentioned, also polearm varieties, generally known as sand shifters. On the end of a 10-foot haft, the blade is about the same size and reach as the normal chain blade, with the haft not only granting an extended range of reach, but entirely new methods of manipulating and using the blade, in either of its forms. The most clear expression of this idea of multiple, hard-to-guess attacks from a single weapon is shown in the largest class of the chain blades, that of the Dune Shaper. A Dune Shaper is basically just two sand shifters fused. However, the now 15-foot haft itself will now separate and add to both the flexibility and control points while granting the proficient wielder a strike range of well over 24 feet. The flexibility of this weapon allows for a savage offensive while maintaining a defensive posture easily, while the whirling edges and blades in its use make trying to close, even from an unseen and undefended angle, deadly if one is unlucky. However, due to all the things one has to be aware of and able to react to in order to use this weapon with any effect or level of proficiency, only Dragwa have ever been seen to have mastered this most potent of chain blades. In particular, supremacist Dragwa, with their enhanced preternatural senses reaching just outside the range of a Dune Shaper, show both the highest aptitude and highest average level of mastery for this fearsome weapon. This weapon allows them to be a ball of devastation and ruin to all who would fight them, on both land and in the air. At current, the 9 Masters of Chain, the highest rank of chainblade wielders recognized by the Dragwa, who are masters in all form of the weapon. 6 are supremacists. The chain blades don't end there though, for there is also the blade shield, a standard round shield paired with a chain blade by most Dragwa. It is round and conceals 4 short chain blades in the outer edge of its ring, and sports a length of wire that connects it to the handle and arm of the wielder. It can be thrown in combat, spinning quite fast, and the blades will deploy, severing limbs or adding to an already intense assault before retracting to the arm of the wielder and being ready to block an oncoming attack. This ability to rapidly shift forms and the mechanism that allow it all to work are of course of Christech origin. It reads the mental impulses from the wielder and either pulls the blade together or allows it to stretch as required. While it does retract at a constant rate and reliable speed, extending the blade into whip form is wholly dependent on the forces at play on the blade, as the weapon is not spring-loaded or the like, thus requiring either swinging or tilting the blade to let it fall into the longer form via gravity being required. The interplay of just the function of extending or retracting the blade forms a large core of the skill set required to attempt to use or master a chain blade to its full potential. And while you will find non-Dragwa who wield them, they are rarely skilled in their full use. However, even without extending the blade, it is still a master-crafted sword, and will still just cut you fine without all the fancy features being used. Chain blades are a ubiquitous sight in Dragwa life, and play a part in many of the traditions and celebrations of the Dragwa, with mock and not so mock duels, dances, plays, and other performances incorporating the weapon in displays of skill and extravagance, all to the applause of onlookers. To be fair, when a misstep or accident occurs during these times, the clerics of the twin gods of the Dragwa, Blade and Chain, are often pressed to tend the wounds that result from a performance that was beyond the skill of the performer attempting it. And with that cheery thought to end upon, I want to thank you once more, my perceptive patrons, for your time and your attention. Again, as always, it means the realms to me. Thank you. And until you make your way back to the library for another entry, by the 9 and 4, be well, take care of yourselves and each other.